as we cross the border into southern Scotland, and these could again be heavy at times and merge together, giving more prolonged spells of wet weather. And it's a similar story for Northern Ireland, with plenty of showers around this lunchtime, the heaviest of which are likely towards Armagh and down. Temperatures here around 14 Celsius. So staying very unsettled for the rest of today, with further showers or longer spells of rain, and generally cooler than on Sunday. And that's how your weather is shaping up for the rest of the Monday.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, on your TV, radio and online this morning. I'm with you all the way through until midday. Massive show this. Happy Monday, everybody. We've got no time to hang about, OK? Can kids as young as 3 months old really be racist? Did you know that taxpayers, you, me, everybody else, we're forking out millions of quid to actually stop the Rwanda deal, and also monkeypox? Don't know about you. Pandemic's only just begun. I'm already over it. Let's get stuck into the absolute lots of it. GB Views at gbnews.uk. But first, it's your latest headlines.
A very good morning to you. It's just 1 minute past 10. I'm Rosie Wright, keeping you up to date on GB News. A health worker has been arrested on suspicion of poisoning a child. The child died at Birmingham's Children's Hospital. The 27-year-old woman was arrested on Thursday and has since been released pending further inquiries. She's also been suspended by the hospital. West Midlands Police say the child's family is being supported by specially trained officers. The Prime Minister is facing calls to explain why he held a meeting with Sue Gray ahead of her report into lockdown breaches. Her findings into parties at Downing Street and Whitehall is due to be published this week. About 30 people, including Boris Johnson, have been contacted by the Cabinet Office to warn them of the contents of the document, which reportedly includes photos. The Chief Secretary to the Treasury also says the government hasn't ruled out a windfall tax on oil and gas companies. Simon Clarke says they've been put on notice and all options remain on the table to help ease the cost of living crisis. He told GB News the government may be forced to take action if the industry fails to invest in domestic energy supplies.
It is in the sector's hands, if you like, whether they reinvest in the way that we expect them to. But if they don't, they are on notice that we will need to consider all our options.
A review into children's services has warned thousands more will end up in care unless there's a radical reset of the system in England. The independent review of children's social care say more than £2.5 billion of investment over the next 4 years is needed to prevent crisis intervention. They're suggesting a windfall tax should be imposed on the profits made by the largest private children's home providers. Well, the chair of the review, Josh McAllister, says change is needed urgently.
That needs a radical reset, because at the moment it is in a cycle where problems escalate, costs rise, outcomes continue to be too poor, and that's getting worse and worse over time. And what we need to do is we need to tilt the system firmly back to supporting the adults, the carers, the parents, the families.
A former Conservative MP will be sentenced today for sexually assaulting a 15-year-old boy. Imran Ahmed Khan was expelled from the Conservative Party and resigned from the Commons after he was convicted last month. The 48-year-old faces a potential jail term over the attack that took place in January 2008. 2 football fans have been charged after crowds stormed the stadium yesterday. Thousands of home supporters ran onto the pitch after Manchester City sealed the Premier League title against Aston Villa. Police say one of the men charged threw a missile. Villa's goalkeeper, Robin Olsen, was also hit in the head. Police are still trying to hunt down the man who attacked him. The government's advised that people at high risk of catching monkeypox are to isolate for 21 days. 20 cases of monkeypox have been identified in the UK. The UK Health Security Agency says anyone who's had unprotected direct contact with a confirmed case shouldn't travel and should avoid pregnant women, children and the immunosuppressed. GP Dr Sarah Kayat says it's closely related to smallpox.
There will be some people who are already vaccinated against smallpox from, when they were much younger. We stopped vaccinating it since we eradicated it, but we know we have that vaccine and we can give it if needed.
Boris Johnson says many Ukrainian children have seen or experienced things no child should have to witness. He's written an open letter to children from Ukraine, and in it he says those children have held their heads high in the toughest of times. The Prime Minister says he believes Ukraine will win the war and that Ukrainian children should be proud of their country, families and soldiers. About a third of ScotRail's train services won't be running this morning. The reduced timetable's been put in place as some drivers are refusing to work overtime until they see better pay rises. 700 fewer train services a day will stop while the deadlock continues. But ministers say passengers will now have greater certainty in the new timetable. The Employment Minister said he hopes the dispute could be sorted soon. The Duke of Cambridge is going to appear on a new £5 coin to mark his 40th birthday. The coin features Prince William's royal cipher and the number 40. It's going to be released on the 21st of June. A limited edition gold coin will be made available beforehand. This is GB News. I'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's head back to the point.
A very good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, on your TV, radio and online. We've got a great show lined up to kickstart your day, kickstart your week, really. So here's what's on the menu for you. Monkeypox. That's right. The government is now advising that contact of those diagnosed with monkeypox should self-isolate for 21 days. But what is it, really, I suppose? And should we be that worried about it? I'm already a bit over this thing, but maybe that's just fatigue from the last pandemic. I'll be talking to 2 health experts to answer all of your questions. Is the NHS at risk of getting privatised? Or is this just another conspiracy theory about secret plans to dismantle and privatise the NHS? Something that someone I'll be discussing with very, very shortly will get stuck right into. And it's revealed that over £7 million of taxpayers' cash has been handed out to groups openly fighting government plans to send migrants to Rwanda. So we're paying to not enforce a government policy. I'll be speaking to a former advisor to the Home Office in the next hour about all of this. Got all of that coming up, much, much more as well. Action-packed show this, ladies and gentlemen. Get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.uk. But first, I give my thoughts on whether or not children as young as 3 months old can be racist. Let kids be kids. Leave our kids alone. I was confronted by an article over the weekend that said children as young as 3 months old can actually be racist. Islington Council, yes, it had to be Islington, didn't it? London's Islington Council produced a poster that basically insinuated that babies are racially biased. This is ridiculous. Children of that age are basically like me on a Saturday night, unable to talk or walk, incontinent and incapable of independent thought. By definition, they cannot be racist. If they do happen to gravitate towards people who happen to be of the same skin colour as their primary caregiver, then that's a natural human thing. It's basic recognition, isn't it? It's not an indication that we're raising a bunch of tiny little Adolfs. I imagine the left get themselves tied up in knots here, because presumably this applies to all children, not just those who happen to be white. So, ethnic minority children are racially biased too then, are they? Surely they can't have that, can they? But this is part of a bigger picture of child interference as far as I'm concerned. Are children transphobic or homophobic? No, I don't think they are. And yet we have a situation where an A-level student is hounded out of school and called a heretic for daring to question transgender ideology, i.e. that women are women, they don't have a penis, and that's that. It should hardly be considered radical stuff, this, should it? And yet it is. In Wales, children as young as 3 are set to be taught about sexual attraction. As far as I'm concerned, that's perverted and frankly bordering on child abuse. Leave them alone. I wouldn't tolerate it anyway, frankly, but it would be marginally more palatable for me if the person teaching my 3-year-old about gender and sexual orientation was a trained professional. But it's not. It's Gladys from the geography department, isn't it? What the heck does she know? And then when I go into school and complain about some random middle-aged failed weatherwoman confusing the living heck out of my young kid, apparently I'm transphobic. All right, frankly, that's a cross that I'm happy to bear, because this is utter madness. And I'm not the weird one in this scenario, for once. Kids are being indoctrinated with this net zero big green agenda as well, the pin-up of which appears to be, as far as I can see, Prince Harry, a man who took a private jet to an environmentalist retreat and another private jet home from a charity polo match. If politicians and teachers really cared about kids, they'd be doing more to stop grooming gangs, which clearly exist in pretty much every single town and city in the UK. But what happens when someone speaks out about it? Well, Labour MP Sarah Champion found out that you basically get cancelled by your own political party. If we really cared about improving the quality of life for our children, we'd allow scholarships for working-class white boys, consistently the worst-performing demographic of children in our education system. But the opposite happens. 2 leading private schools, Dulwich College and Winchester College, refused to accept donations of up to £1 million to help give working-class white lads a leg up in the world. But Stormzy and co can give whatever they like towards scholarships for ethnic minorities, as indeed they should, by the way. I think that's a great thing, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that it has to be able to work the other way around as well, doesn't it? We've got a situation where teachers are hiring drag acts or a person dressed in a rainbow-coloured monkey costume with a visibly exposed penis. Yes, if you don't believe me, Google it. Just don't do it on a work laptop, I imagine. To entertain young children. Can we just stop it? Can we just not do this stuff to kids? Stop banging on about child racism, child transphobia. Stop indoctrinating them with weird stuff. I'll finish how I started. Leave our kids alone and let kids be kids. Right, get in touch. Let me know what you think about this. Obviously, I'll be diving into the GB News inbox very, very soon, and gbviews@gbnews.uk is that email address. Our very own Calvin Robinson will be live on this issue in about 15 minutes' time. We're going to move away from that right now, OK, and talk about monkeypox. So, the government has advised that contacts of those diagnosed with monkeypox should self-isolate for 21 days. So the UK Health Security Agency says anyone who's had unprotected direct contact with a confirmed case shouldn't travel. They should avoid pregnant women, apparently, children and the immunosuppressed. Well, the World Health Organization as well has identified about 80 monkeypox cases globally and roughly 50 more suspected infections. That number obviously is expected to rise. But I don't know about you, I'm a bit confused about this. What is it really? How contagious is it? What should we really do about it? So how is it caused, for example? Should we be that concerned about it all? So what I wanted to do was just do a bit of an explainer, really, a bit of a Q&A at the top of the show to kind of get you all up to date with it. So let's talk to two esteemed people, really. Dr. Lawrence Jerlis, who is a GP at Same Day Doctor, and Dr. Chris Smith, who's a virologist and founder of the Naked Science podcast. Yet again, not naked. I feel like you're undersold, though. Anyway, there we go. I'll start with you, Dr. Lawrence, if that's OK. What on earth is monkeypox?
Well, I know, Patrick, you like me to give you exclusives, so I'll give you one here. One of my colleagues is now isolating for 21 days. We offer sexual health services, and last week he spent about an hour with two men dealing with what he thought were herpes lesions, only to be told they were monkeypox. And we've had to change all our protocols now, because if people are coming in for sexual health testing, monkeypox looks a bit like herpes, can be syphilis, can be molluscum, which is another pox virus. So we've had to be very careful. So it's having a direct impact on us. Any doctor who spends an hour scraping lesions from these two men, it has exposed himself to the risk. And so he's now at home for 21 days in his own personal new lockdown after COVID. It is contagious, certainly by intimate contact. I mean, I'm not a virologist, but what I understand, it's now become transmitted sexually, and that's my concern at the moment, because we have to protect ourselves and our staff from exposure to this.
Yeah, Dr. Chris, I'll bring you in on this. Is it deadly? Can it kill you?
This is a member of the family of viruses called pox viruses. It's a big family, and they include historically smallpox, which we eradicated in the late 1960s and which was pretty deadly. But this one is not an infection normally of humans. It's actually carried by small rodents, despite the misleading name, in parts of Africa. But it can jump the species barrier and get into things like monkeys and occasionally get into things like us. And when it does so, depending upon what variant of it you catch, there can be between a 1 and a 10% mortality rate. So it's not trivial, and because it's judged to be a risk disease, and it's very rare in our country normally, that's why it's being taken very seriously. Now, normally, we can track a history of travel to an endemic area. People go to those parts of Africa where the disease is, they pick it up there, they come to the UK, and we can then identify where they got it, who they've been in contact with, and we can stop it. Now, what's alarming people at the moment is that although in the early stages of this present mini outbreak we're having, there was a documented history of travel to Africa by one case, we've subsequently picked up quite a few cases where there's no evidence of travel. And that suggests it's now spreading in the community. And that's why people are nervous, because if we have got community spread and there is a long incubation period, we've been hearing about this quarantine for 3 weeks. The reason they've set the time to 3 weeks is because that's the maximum theoretical time that you could take to manifest the disease. That means there's potentially the opportunity for lots and lots of people to pass it on without realising it. And that's why it's being taken seriously.
OK, Dr. Lawrence, do we have a vaccine?
You can use the smallpox vaccine. I think there is a monkeypox vaccine in the USA, but my colleague has been offered a smallpox vaccine. There are some people, my elder brother tells me he thinks that he and I had been vaccinated against smallpox. I can't really remember. I can't remember when the vaccination campaign stopped. But the UK does have supplies of the smallpox vaccine, so that is an option. Having said that, it's only probably the immunocompromised who are at greatest risk, and we wouldn't want to start giving a live vaccine to immunocompromised people anyway at the moment. Look, this is don't panic is the message here. The irony here is that test and tracing is more appropriate to this type of virus than it was in any way to a respiratory virus like COVID, which was going to spread. The idea that people got pinged because they went to a restaurant and sat 30 feet away from someone else who's positive, now in retrospect, sounds ridiculous. But I'm afraid we've damaged the whole test and trace philosophy, whereas here, of course, it's really quite important.
Yeah, now, Dr. Chris, I'm hearing various different things about this, about how easy it is to transmit from human to human. I know the COVID crisis obviously was relatively easy. You just sneezed near someone and then they got it. But is this the same with monkeypox? Do you have to rub yourself against someone with lesions?
I think the best way to approach this is to say, well, we've known about this virus for about 5 decades. And if it were that infectious among people, then we would see far more activity, far more human cases, and far more spread in those parts of the world where it's common and endemic than we do. So that argues that it's actually quite hard to catch this infection, initially from the animals that carry it, but then when it does get into people, it's relatively easy to rein it in. And so I'm not thinking at the moment, I'm not concerned this is going to turn into COVID Mark II. I don't think we're going to see national lockdowns off the back of this. But what we are seeing is a particular group of people in society who do appear to be at higher risk.
And who are they?
Who are they? Immunocompromised and people who are pregnant, for example. I'm referring to people who might be at risk of passing it on. And we heard reference to that earlier on in this interview, where there is a certain group, men who have sex with men, where we're seeing a very high representation of cases. And this probably is the virus exploiting that particular group in terms of they facilitate the transmission because of where they're going, who they're meeting with, and what they're getting up to. And that is why we're getting an outbreak there. And that means we can intervene, we can help those people by warning them they might be at risk, and also the people who care for them, to make sure we don't see bigger outbreaks as we go forward.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, actually, because I was umming and ahhing about how I asked that question, because we've all read the news reports, obviously. I think there was a Pride festival, for example, in somewhere like Gran Canaria, and that's kind of supposedly been responsible for a bit of a spread over there. Obviously, it's a sensitive issue because of things relating to, the AIDS virus and things like that, and you don't want to, for a single second, none of us would want to say, this is a kind of gay person's disease or anything like that. That's not the case. But Dr. Lawrence, it does seem to be more prevalent amongst the, I suppose, homosexual community, and obviously Dr. Chris touched on that. Why is that, Dr. Lawrence, in your view?
Even the UK HSA have said, people that have regular and new sexual partners. That can be men who have sex with men. It can be heterosexuals, but it's in terms of physical contact with people, new partners on a more regular basis than people who are monogamous, without trying to be in any way judgmental about people's behaviour.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Look, chaps, thank you very, very much. Great way to start that show. And I think as well, just to keep you both in boxes for a second, actually, just one more if that's all right, because I'll throw it over to you, Dr. Chris. Look, I wanted to bring this up because I think we need to know the facts, right, which is important, OK? But also because I worry that we've become addicted to fear, right? We've become addicted to kind of almost like virus fear in this country. We had the daily death tolls. I saw Chris Whitty every day. You couldn't move for Whitty on your TV screens for a while. This isn't like that, is it, Dr. Chris? Should we all just calm down a bit?
This is, at the moment, a very small number of people in the grand scheme of things. But from small acorns, big oak trees can grow. And we don't want to take our eye off the ball. So given this is a risk disease, it's something we can do something about. It's worth intervening decisively and promptly to avoid any further problems. And so at this stage, it is small. It's not a major issue for most people. People should not worry about this because, in fact, they should be reassured we know about it and we're doing something about it.
Sorry, I'm going to get shouted at in a second, but Dr. Lawrence, we're not going to have a monkeypox lockdown, are we?
No, but as Dr. Smith says, we do need to be careful, and certainly certain groups of people need to be careful this doesn't get out of control.
Good stuff. Look, chaps, fantastic way to start the show. Really appreciate you both coming on. And Dr. Lawrence Jolis, a GP at Same Day Doctor, and Dr. Chris Smith is a virologist and also founder of the Naked Scientist podcast. I'll say it again, you've got your clothes on, I'm disappointed. Anyway, right, after the break, Calvin Robinson will be with me to dive a little bit deeper into whether or not children as young as, get this, 3 months old can actually be racist. I know, the world's gone mad. It's what a leading London council thinks, but what do you think? GBViews at gbnews.uk. That's after this very short break. Stay tuned.
Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking rather cloudy for many, with rain in southeast England and showers elsewhere, especially further west. Let's take a look at the details. Well, quite a lot of showers developing across southwest England by lunchtime, perhaps merging in more general wet weather for a time, feeling quite cool in the rain there. Some wet weather also pushing into southeast England, albeit with an uncertain westward extent, and areas to the west of London may remain mostly dry. Much of Wales will see increasing amounts of showers as we move into the afternoon. These will be slow-moving and will likely be heavy at times. Perhaps fewer showers at lunchtime across the Midlands, but skies will often be rather cloudy. And if it is dry where you are now, showers are more likely in the next few hours. Generally fairly cloudy skies across northeast England, again with showers never too far away. Perhaps the best chance of staying dry towards Teesside and North Yorkshire. Temperatures in the mid-teens for most of us there. Certainly more showers likely as we cross the border into southern Scotland, and these could again be heavy at times and merge together, giving more prolonged spells of wet weather. And it's a similar story for Northern Ireland, with plenty of showers around this lunchtime, the heaviest of which are likely towards Armagh and down. Temperatures here around 14 Celsius. So staying very unsettled for the rest of today, with further showers or longer spells of rain, and generally cooler than on Sunday. And that's how your weather is shaping up for the rest of the Monday.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Yes, a very good morning, everybody. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News, live on your TV, online and radio this morning, as ever. Now, I started today's show with my monologue, as ever, deathless prose, but asking a simple question. Can children be racist? OK, so this is all because of a London council's claims that children as young as 3 months old, OK, 3 months old, can be racially biased, right? A poster shared by the Islington Council, always Islington, isn't it, says that by 5 white children are strongly biased in favour of whiteness. So let's talk to GB News presenter, commentator, friend of the channel, all-round nice guy, Calvin Robinson, who joins me now. Calvin, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Patrick.
Can kids be racist?
No.
Good stuff, Calvin. Nice to have you on board, mate. See you in a bit. Yeah, fantastic. No, we all pack up and go. No, but seriously, what the heck is this about? Because from what I can see, the crux of this line of attack, in a way, was that children who are raised by a caregiver of any colour, right, will be naturally more drawn to people of that colour. But they're 3 months old, and that to me seems like a pretty basic human thing, Calvin.
Yeah, this is a sick and twisted ideology. That's what this is. Of course, children, as they grow older, can be racist because racism is taught by us adults when we divide them based on their skin colour. But at 3 months old, can you be racist? Of course not. This is politically indoctrinating young people. And if we look at who's doing this, it's not just Islington. It's Nottingham City Council. It's Bristol. It's the Welsh Government. What do all of these things have in common? They're Labour run. They're jumping on board political bandwagons that Labour are in line with. It's wokeism. But they're working with organisations such as the Black Nursery Manager, which promotes the agent of white supremacy, the violence of whiteness. These are very, very divisive, toxic words to be using around young people and to teach teachers who are teaching young people. And that's what's happening here, because teachers don't necessarily know how to address this, this landmine of race relations. So of course,
but they shouldn't be addressing it, Calvin. Sorry to interrupt, but they shouldn't be addressing it, right? I wouldn't tolerate it anyway, but I could just about tolerate it, just about. If this was some kind of trained expert, especially when it comes to the gender stuff, right? Some child psychologist, but it's not. It's Gladys from the geography department who's potentially going to talk to my 5-year-old son about whether or not he's born into the wrong body or he's a racist. And I can't have that, Calvin. I can't have it.
No, you shouldn't. And parents need to stand up more and say, what is being taught in my school, in my kids' school? I want to see the resources. I want to see who's coming in to talk to them. Because at the moment, we have political lobbyists going into schools to deliver material that is entirely inappropriate for young people. It's entirely biased. There's no evidence behind it. Where are the facts? Where's the data to support these claims that 3-month-olds can be racist? There is none, because it doesn't exist, because it's not possible. At 3 months old, you're biased towards people that feed you and love you and clothe you and give you warmth. You're not biased towards any skin colour. Come off it.
No, absolutely, Calvin. And kids are basically pretty good, right? Kids are basically pretty innocent. And I think especially in the current, very multicultural, very open and welcoming country that we live in at the minute, I don't really believe, honestly, that very young children really notice things like colour or gender or things like that. And yet they're being force-fed it, aren't they? And actually, Calvin, I would go as far as to say it's borderline child abuse.
It is child abuse. It's not borderline. And you're right, children don't notice colour. I was playing with my niece only yesterday. We were playing a game that had little characters on, and she was describing the character as the green one. And I was thinking, what's the green one? And I noticed the character had a green top. Also happened to have black skin. That's the thing that stood out first to me. So maybe I'm the racist one. But she didn't notice that. She just noticed the green top. And that, all these things remind you that kids see things differently to what we do.
Yeah, exactly, Calvin. I won't call you a massive racist on national television, of course, Calvin. You'd sue me. But is this adults projecting their own shortcomings onto children?
It is, and there's a better way to do this. If we think race is a big problem in this country or in the West in general, we need to promote colour blindness. Go back to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s idea of teaching people differently based on the character of the content, or the content of the character rather than the colour of their skin. It's as simple as that. Move away from critical race theory, move away from white and non-white, and get back to us all being people, and get back to kids being kids.
Yeah, let kids be kids, for goodness sake. One thing I'm concerned about, though, Calvin, is that this might have the opposite effect to what they're intending, right? So actually, this might breed racism, this might breed things like transphobia, because all of a sudden you're forcing kids to notice differences in people that, in my opinion, don't really exist.
We've seen it. It works. It happens. We've seen young white kids question whether they're racist. We've seen young black kids question whether their white friends are racist against them. And it's always that way around. We're never teaching young people that anyone can be racist, and it's something that we all have to be mindful of. It's always white people are oppressive and racists, and black people are victims and held back. And that is inappropriate. It's indoctrination, it's political, and it's incorrect. If we have a race problem in this country, and I don't think we do, there are better ways of solving it than this. This is actually creating the problem that they are intending to solve, and they don't see that.
No, they don't see it, actually. And can I ask you, I don't know if you've got kids, have you? No?
I don't yet, no.
No, same, not at least as far as I'm aware anyway. But I think I'm going to end up, one day I can see it coming. I can see it coming clear as day, Calvin, where I have to go into school, right, and say, can you just not talk to my kid about that? And then all of a sudden I'm transphobic or I'm intolerant. I just don't want you to teach my 5-year-old who should be thinking about Santa and stuff like this, about, critical race theory. I mean, but this is coming, isn't it, Calvin?
Schools are there to teach reading, writing and arithmetic. That is it.
Absolutely. Bits of French, a smattering of art.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
Say again?
A bit of French, a smattering of art. Do the syllabus, that's right, isn't it?
Exactly, but they're imparting knowledge, not values. Values come from home, values come from the parents. And parents need to stand up more and take responsibility for this, because it has been taken away from them, but they've let it happen. So parents need to know exactly what's being taught to their kids and who's teaching it. And they don't want to accept lobbyists coming in schools, or whether it's Stonewall or the Black Nurse Company, whatever they're called. Parents need to be saying, look, I believe this, I want my child to be taught that, and if you're not willing to do that as a school, I'm going to take them somewhere else.
Yeah, Calvin, look, I think you're an absolute legend. Thank you very, very much for really kick-starting this show and indeed our viewers and listeners' weeks. Calvin Robinson there, of course, a GB News fan favourite, it's fair to say. Right, loads coming your way in the show, and to be honest with you, we've not got any time to mess about, because did you realise that you and me and every other taxpayer is paying millions of pounds collectively to actually stop this Rwanda migrant scheme? It's absolute madness, but GBViews, gbnews.uk, loads of people getting in touch. Paul's been on. Differentiating by colour isn't racist, as a child he's talking about here. A 3-month-old spotting a colour different isn't racist. Can they distinguish between a white Brit and a white Hungarian? No, obviously not, because that would be nuts, as indeed this whole thing is. Loads of people getting in touch on this particular issue. Fantastic stuff from Rob. He says, thank goodness for GB News putting this woke nonsense to bed. Well, look, we've got all of this coming your way and much, much more, but after the break. Is NHS privatisation something to worry about, or actually has scaremongering around this gone too far? We're going to be myth-busting, OK, about the NHS, but I'll be diving into all of that after this morning's headlines. Don't go anywhere.
It's 10:32. I'm Rosie Wright, keeping you up to date on GB News. A health worker has been arrested on suspicion of poisoning a child who died at Birmingham's Children's Hospital on Thursday. The 27-year-old has since been released pending further inquiries and has been suspended by the hospital. West Midlands Police say the child's family is being supported by specially trained officers. The Prime Minister is facing calls to explain why he held a meeting with Sue Gray ahead of her report into lockdown parties at Downing Street and Whitehall. About 30 people, including the Prime Minister, have been contacted by the Cabinet Office to warn them of the contents of the document, which also reportedly includes photos. A review into children's services has warned thousands more will end up in care unless there's a radical reset of the system in England. The independent review of children's social care is calling for a £2.6 billion set of investment over the next 4 years to prevent crisis intervention. Among 80 recommendations, it suggests a windfall tax be imposed on profits made by the largest private children's home providers. 2 football fans have been charged after crowds stormed the pitch at Manchester City Premier League game against Aston Villa yesterday. Well, Villa goalkeeper Robin Olsen was hit in the head after his team's defeat at the stadium. The government's advising people who are at high risk of catching monkeypox to isolate for 21 days. At least 20 cases have been identified in the UK. The UK Health Security Agency says anyone who's had direct exposure with a confirmed case shouldn't travel and should avoid pregnant women, children and the immunosuppressed. The agency is also advising they get a smallpox vaccine. You're up to date. We're on your TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quite quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.259 to the dollar, and the pound is 1.182 to the euro. The price of gold currently stands at £1,479.72 per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News, investments that matter.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's 2 questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Yes, good morning, everybody. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, on GB News Live, as ever, on your TV, online and radio this morning. Now, there have been loads of conspiracy theories about secret plans to dismantle, privatise the NHS, something that someone I'm about to talk to has called a fixed feature of British politics. Now, look, don't get me wrong, certain elements of the NHS are, of course, outsourced and private companies help provide services, but the UK still has an unusually state-centred system when it comes to healthcare. So, is this all just madness and conspiracy theories about us privatising the NHS? We can't even have a conversation about it, can we? And what indeed would be so bad about it if we even did it? Now, Christian Niemitz is the head of political economy at the Institute of Economic Affairs, the IEA, and he's written extensively about what he calls the NHS and 4 decades of privatisation paranoia. Christian, thank you so much. Right, look, myth bust it for me. Are we privatising the NHS?
That's an easy one. The answer is no. That's definitely a no. And you can see this from the fact that this idea that there is a secret plan to slowly, creepingly, by stealth, sell off the NHS bit by bit, this idea has been around for over 40 years. And that in itself shows you that it's a whole load of nonsense, because you cannot carry on privatizing the same organization forever. Privatization is a one-off process. There comes a point when it's finished, when it's done, and when whatever the organization that you're trying to privatize has been privatized. And therefore, that in itself, the fact that people keep making this prophecy for more than 40 years and that it never happens, that in itself shows you that this is pure conspiracy theory. This is on a par with David Icke's lizard man theory.
Yeah, okay, yeah, exactly. I know David Icke's a character, but anyway, what's the most mental NHS conspiracy theory that you've heard?
Oh, they're all mental in different ways and to varying degrees. You will remember the story from 3 years ago, it was, or less, that there was supposedly a plan to privatize the NHS, to sell it to Donald Trump in the course of a post-Brexit trade deal between the UK and the US, and that was somehow, or that contained a Trojan horse for the privatization of the NHS. I remember Jeremy Corbyn standing up at a press conference, holding up what he thought, what he claimed to be the literal privatization plan. But you can go further back. I mean, there was one story in the early 80s where some trade union leaders claimed that because in that year there had just been a pay rise for the NHS management, and there were people in the trade union movement who said, this shows that they're trying to privatize the NHS, and this pay increase is really just a bribe. They are trying to buy these people's silence. And the fact that they're raising pay for NHS managers, that shows you that there's a sinister plan going on. But then there would also be, I always admire the ones that at least put a specific date on their predictions, on their prophecies. There was Seamus Milner, for example, the guru of Corbynism, who said during or just before the 2015 general election, he said if David Cameron gets re-elected, then the NHS will definitely be dismantled over the next parliament. And yeah, well, we know now how that
Yes,
turned out.
I like people who put specific dates on conspiracy theories. We have these kind of kooky little clans, don't we, in the US who think the world's going to end, or indeed the Mayans, actually, to be fair, although they weren't around to see the devastation their predictions actually caused. But is this preventing a rational, reasonable debate when it comes to NHS reform? Because it's not a binary choice, is it, Christian, between what we've got now and total, complete and utter American privatisation? Yet we're not really allowed to talk about that, are we? It's dirty. It's a dirty conversation.
It clearly does have that effect. That's what I noticed by going through these old news archives in writing the report, that every time there is a health reform, a major one or a minor one, or even just a minor tweak to the healthcare system, people come up with these conspiracy theories, and that then crowds out everything else. It would be very hard from reading these news reports to get a feel for what these various reforms were actually about, because 90% of the media coverage is just about the conspiracy theories. So what you get on the one hand is people making this claim, this is about privatization, this is a Trojan horse, blah, blah. And on the other hand, you get people denying it. You get angry, defensive denials. But what you won't get is just an explainer in plain English. What is this reform actually about? What are they trying to do? What would be a good defense of the reform? What would be a good counter-argument? That kind of pro and con. You don't get that because the conspiracy theories crowd out everything else.
Well, I think there's a certain irony here, isn't there? And correct me if I'm wrong here, Christian, as I'm sure you will have no problem doing. But my take on it is that people on the left, right, are too afraid to talk about reform to the NHS. They see that as a kind of sacred cow, in a way, and it needs reform. And so, in a way, they're happy for people to wait months to see a GP, and I will go as far as to say die, instead of actually saying the rational thing, which is something needs to change.
Yes, and they're even damaging themselves, because I mean, we all know that when we have a Conservative government, you will have the Labour opposition saying you're trying to privatize the NHS. But the thing is, even in the Blair years, we got the exact same stories. In those years, it didn't come from the parliamentary opposition, but you had the British Medical Association, the Royal College of Nursing, the Guardian, the Independent, the Lancet, you had the medical establishment and the left-wing press peddling these conspiracy theories, even when we had a left-wing government. So this isn't something that only affects Conservatives. This is something which is very much around when you have a left-wing government as well. And as long as they are in opposition, they may think that these conspiracy theories in a way help them because they're attacking their political opponents. But that's a very short-sighted strategy. So even if you are if you are on the center left, you're not benefiting from this. The moment you are in government, the moment we have a Labour government, these conspiracy theorists will absolutely turn on you. So that's what I'm trying to emphasize. These people, even if you are on the left, these people are not your friends.
Well, there you go. I've always said that in a way. Christian, thank you very much. Christian Nimitz is the head of political economy at the Institute of Economic Affairs, myth-busting for us there. Thank you very much about privatising the NHS, or indeed not doing so. Now, I'm just going to go quickly to a couple of your views here. Now, I started the show anyway, by talking about whether or not, believe it or not, whether or not kids as young as 3 months old can actually be racist, because that's what we're being told now. They're kind of unconsciously racist. This is John in Suffolk. Thank you very much, John. My granddaughters have a black godmother and have black friends they regularly play with, and there's no identity issues whatsoever until the school decided to teach them about white privilege. Classic this, John, and we can all see this coming an absolute mile off. Loads of you getting in touch on this. Any teacher who teaches sex in any form to primary school kids should be debarred, or I imagine whatever the equivalent is. No ifs, no buts, for want of a better phrase. That's regards Megan. Thank you very much, Megan. Right, we're moving on from that now, though, and we're talking about, yes, that's right, Rwanda, the deal, and what we're paying for it. So taxpayers, if you weren't aware of this, I think this is an absolutely massive story, so strap yourselves in. Taxpayers have given £7.7 million, you, me, everyone we know, to groups now fighting government plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. So, literally, we're paying now to stop the Rwanda deal. So the grants or loans went to 5 organisations who've openly attacked the policy. Migrant Help received £6.9 million. Stonewall got 593 grand. Refugee Action 58k, and Home Not Hate, I imagine that should be Hope Not Hate, but I'm not quite sure, £50,000. The UK has agreed to pay Rwanda 120 million big ones for housing and integrating those sent to the African nation. Now, Claire Pearsall is a former special advisor at the Home Office and joins me now. Thank you very much. I think, Claire, cheers, good to see you, Claire. I think the public are going to be absolutely disgusted by this.
I agree with you, and I'm surprised that it's actually not a bigger story. It appeared in one paper across the weekend, and I'm really quite surprised that no one else has picked it up. This is our money being used by organisations who purport to support migrants, especially in the view of refugee action. Well, actually, they're lobbying against the government.
And can I just ask, how on earth does this happen? Because the government, enacts a policy. OK, look, we can argue till the cows come home about whether or not this is actually going to work. But the fact is they've put a policy in place and now at the same time allowing taxpayers to fund the desecration of that policy. That is lunacy, isn't it?
It is, and I think these organisations need to work out really if they are going to be there to support the government in working with refugees and migrants, or they're going to become lobby and pressure groups. Now, if they want to be lobby or pressure groups, then that should be self-funded. They need to go away and they need to look at their own funding. They need to raise that money like other charities do and not take it from the taxpayer. I think that they have a very confused issue about what they're essentially there to do.
So it undermines the idea that we're a kind of racist little nation, because at the same time, the flip side of this, right, is that the taxpayer is paying money to not send people to Rwanda, whether we know about it or not. And so this idea that we're some kind of horrible, intolerant little rock in the middle of the ocean is nuts, isn't it?
It is, and we are a very welcoming nation, and I'm extremely proud of what kind of welcome people have given to Ukrainians, to Syrian refugees, and I helped to house a Syrian family in Sevenoaks, and extremely proud of what the community pulled together to produce. So to have organisations that suggest that they do one thing but actually are taking our money to do another is incredibly wrong. The government needs to look at how these organisations are funded, and going forward, look at whether they should be funding organisations like this at all.
Indeed, and it never ceases to amaze me, Claire, about things like Stonewall, for example, obviously is a kind of, how would you describe it, I suppose, a gay rights group and, a lobbyist for things like gay rights, trans issues, etc. Now, look, I would be amazed at how many people coming from places like Syria and indeed Middle Eastern countries are completely on board with things like gay rights and indeed women's rights. That's not a sweeping comment about absolutely everybody, but it is a comment, frankly, on just the culture and the norms in a lot of those countries, right? And so I am never ceased to be amazed by people waving a rainbow flag on the beach in Dover, right? And actually, you think a lot of the people coming over here are not pro-gay rights. In fact, in some of those countries, they get killed for it.
No, there is an argument for education of people, and I did see this with organisations in Jordan, for example, who took refugees from the refugee camps to integrate into other countries, and they were taught about the country that they were going to and the social norms and what is acceptable and what is not. So from an education point of view, it's absolutely valid, but to suggest that every single person coming over will have LGBTQ needs is frankly quite ridiculous. And you're right, in some countries, people are killed. Now, there are certain countries where there are gay people who are at persecution risk, and it is quite right that we protect them, but that isn't everybody. So for Stonewall to suggest that it is incredibly wrong on their behalf.
You are obviously a former special advisor at the Home Office. I imagine you've got your contacts. You've got your contacts there at the minute. What's the mood on the ground? Is this Rwanda deal actually working? Priti Patel tells us it is. People are asking to be sent back to Calais, apparently. Is it true?
I don't believe it is for 1 minute, and I think the reporting was quite interesting when it said up to 10 people. Well, what kind of number is up to 10? Arguably 1 is up to 10. So I think it's a little bit early to suggest that this is a massive success, and you will see a number of voluntary returns in any case. The voluntary returns unit deals with in excess of tens of thousands of people who wish to return home once their asylum claims have failed. So I'm not seeing this as a great success at the moment.
OK, well, look, Claire, thank you very, very much. Claire Pearsall there, of course, a former special advisor at the Home Office, friend of the channel. Great to have her views on board. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? How do you feel about the fact that you are, whether you like it or not, we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis, OK? Your gas bills are going up, your fuel bills are going up, your food bills are going up, for goodness sake. Everything is going up, up, up. And yet you are now paying to block this Rwanda deal. GBViews at gbnews.uk. Don't be shy, people. Don't hold back. But now, let's take you through some of the headlines of the day that you may have missed. And this one feels a little bit close to home, to be honest with you, and I can't imagine why my producers, friends, people who have to look me in the eye every single day, have picked this particular story. Patrick the Wombat is celebrating his 29th birthday, making him the oldest wombat on Earth, weighing in at a massive 39 kilograms. Yeah, OK, thank you, everyone. Patrick greets zoo visitors in a wheelbarrow. They have to wheel a wombat around a zoo because he's that fat. Now, given that Patrick has never had children, yes, or any partners in general, I think we don't know that about him for sure. Come on, I reckon he's a bit of a player on the side. But anyway, probably makes him the oldest living wombat virgin as well. So there we go. So whoever decided to do a story about a fat wombat virgin called Patrick, and let me read that out, I think is... Well, look, you can make your own minds up about the appropriateness of that in the workplace, but I think he looks very well for 29, to be honest with you, and I actually have heard that he does get around a bit, so there we go. Anyway, and he's not as fat as he looks, whatever. Anyway, a motorist clocked up more than £117,000 worth of parking fines in just over a year, receiving 588 tickets in total. I'd knight this guy. I think this is fantastic stuff. It's a massive effort. It equates to almost £200 a ticket, with penalties increasing when they're not paid promptly. So the fines, thought to be a British record, like the way it's not a world record, it's just a British record, it's not gone global yet, were logged in North London by Islington Council, which said that it was chasing the driver for payment. Well, not chasing him very hard, are they? Who is he, Usain Bolt? I mean, he's got how many thousands, 117 grand's worth of parking fines. I don't know about you, ladies and gents, but I quite regularly get a parking fine, and every single time I'm utterly convinced that I've been done. Right? It's not true. I'm in the right. Okay. And then, annoyingly, they usually produce something like, I don't know, photographic evidence, right? And it turns out that I'm parked literally in front of a massive yellow sign that says, you cannot park here, and I end up paying it, but there we go. Anyway, Heinz tomato ketchup will soon come in paper bottles to help the environment. So the new bottles will be made with wood pulp and will be available alongside the current glass and plastic options. Do you reckon this is going to be like Coke, like Coca-Cola? So, you know, it always tastes better out of a glass bottle, doesn't it? Or I'll have a kind of go, no, I don't like the paper bottles. But there we go. Yes, Heinz 57 Varieties is using another version of this now. Paper Heinz, everybody. There we go. A story you didn't know that you needed to know. The new containers will be made in partnership with Pulpex and are part of Heinz's long-term plan to make all of its packaging recyclable, reusable or compostable by 2025. There you go. So, yes, you might as well collect... If you now currently are the proud owner of a plastic bottle of Heinz, OK, keep it, because it'll be a collector's item in about 15 years' time. Anyway, a man who survived a plane crash has identified his simple preference for an aisle seat as one of the most significant reasons for his escape. So the remaining 97 passengers and crew on board all very sadly perished, OK? So one survivor, one person obviously on the ground as well, and lucky for them, of course. The plane fell in Karachi in Pakistan. Goodness me, I don't know about you guys, but it's one of my biggest fears, this, you know, the whole plane crash thing, because it does seem, unless you're one very lucky individual, that you are, frankly, bang out of luck, doesn't it? All got very quiet about that China plane crash, but anyway, there we go. So, yes, he says that actually his aisle seat is what saved him. I had a friend once who's terrified of flying. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly have a few of them. And we were on a now notorious and infamous flight to Malaga, so keep it classy, guys. But his response to his fear of flying was to get absolutely mullered at Manchester Airport about 9 o'clock in the morning, which he did very successfully. And we had to basically kind of rod his back and carry him onto this plane, which he got on. And then he couldn't do his own seatbelt up, right? So the air stewardess came up and she said to him, "Sir, you are too drunk to be on this flight." And he said, in front of, we had kids in front of us, we had, women and children around us, and he went, well, of course I'm drunk because I'm in a big metal coffin. And everything just screamed and kicked off, and he was told to get off the plane. But there we go, enough about my holidays to Malaga. Right, keep all of your thoughts coming into us, GBViews at gbnews.uk. Keep them coming. I've got some of your views right here. Well said, Patrick. Thank you, Julie. I'm 100% behind you. I agree with everything you said this morning. This is a great email. Let children be children. It's up to the kids to decide. And this is in relation, of course, to the notion now that apparently kids as young as 3 months old can actually be considered racist. They're being indoctrinated, in my view, with this kind of gender-critical, race-critical theory that I just don't think kids need. My view is let kids be kids. GBViews at gbnews.uk. We'll be back with more of today's top stories. Plenty of your views as well after this very short break. In fact, it's your weather.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. A day of bright spells and heavy showers for many, but it's going to stay cloudy and damp in the southeast for much of the day. A weather front is moving through here. It's moving up from the south, and it's really just staying still for a time before eventually the more showery airflow pushes through from the west and across Northern Ireland, parts of western Scotland. Those showers already breaking out. Southwest England, Wales, Northern England and much of northeast Scotland also seeing some heavy downpours through the afternoon. Some brighter and drier spells for the Midlands, for central parts of England, but it stays cloudy, damp and fairly cool for East Anglia in the southeast. At best, 17 or 18 Celsius, I think, here. And 15 to 18 degrees elsewhere, but at least it'll feel more pleasant with some brightness in between the showers. Showers or longer spells of rain move through southern parts of the UK overnight, and some persistent rain there for northeast Scotland for the first half of the night as well. For many, again, clear spells in between the showers, and it's a cool night to come with temperatures dipping into the mid to high single figures in most spots. So for the start of Tuesday, some persistent rain close to the northeast of England, southeast Scotland. Showers from the word go across central and southern England, and really it's another day of sunshine and showers with the heaviest downpours for the southern half of the UK with the risk of hail and thunder in places, and temperatures getting up to 15 to 18 Celsius. Into the evening on Tuesday, the showers continue for a time. Eventually the focus for showers pushes east, drier and brighter weather for a time from the west, with clear spells developing overnight and another cool night to come. Now Wednesday's a blustery day with a strong breeze and some outbreaks of rain in the north. Thursday and Friday, further showers to come.
Join me, Gloria De Piero, Monday to Thursday at noon for The Briefing. We go to the parts of Parliament that you won't see elsewhere. Plus, there's exclusive interviews with MPs from all parties.
But quite often, they paper over the real truth. Why does a working class lad like you join the Tories?
That's a good question. Don't miss it. Monday to Thursdays at noon on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. We've rattled through that first hour, haven't we? This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christys, on your TV, radio and online. I'm with you all the way through until midday with an action-packed show to kickstart your week and, of course, plenty of your views as well. Make sure you get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.uk. I'll be getting to those throughout the show. But first, it's time for your latest headlines.
Very good morning. It's 1 minute past 11. I'm Rosie Wright, here to keep you up to date on GB News. A health worker has been arrested on suspicion of poisoning a child who died at Birmingham Children's Hospital. The 27-year-old woman was arrested on Thursday and has since been released pending further inquiries. She's also been suspended by the hospital. West Midlands Police say the child's family is being supported by specially trained officers. The Prime Minister is facing calls to explain why he held a meeting with Sue Gray ahead of her report into lockdown breaches. Her findings into parties at Downing Street and Whitehall are due to be published this week. About 30 people, including Boris Johnson, have been contacted by the Cabinet Office to warn them of the contents of the report, which also reportedly includes photographs. Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Simon Clarke, told GB News he believes the public should have full confidence in the independence of Sue Gray's report.
There should be no suggestion that anyone at the centre is briefing against Ms Gray. There is the highest regard for her record of public service and, crucially, her independence and impartiality. So it is really important, I think, in this week, as we get ready for her report to land, that we respect the fact that she is someone who is genuinely independent, someone who is genuinely driven by public service and who wants to bring forward a full record of what happened.
The Chief Secretary to the Treasury says the government hasn't ruled out a windfall tax on oil and gas companies. Simon Clarke says they've been put on notice and all options remain on the table to help ease the cost of living crisis. He told GB News the government may be forced to take action if the industry fails to invest in domestic energy supplies. A review into children's services has warned thousands more will end up in care unless there's a radical reset of the system in England. The independent review of the children's social care says more than £2.5 billion of investment over the next 4 years is needed to prevent crisis intervention. They're suggesting funding it by a windfall tax that could be imposed on the profits made by the largest private children's home providers. The chair of the review, Josh McAllister, says change is needed urgently.
That needs a radical reset because at the moment it is in a cycle where problems escalate, costs rise, outcomes continue to be too poor, and that's getting worse and worse over time. And what we need to do is we need to tilt the system firmly back to supporting the adults, the carers, the parents, the families.
A former Conservative MP will be sentenced today for sexually assaulting a 15-year-old boy. Imran Ahmed Khan was expelled from the Conservative Party and resigned from the Commons after he was convicted last month. The 48-year-old faces a potential jail term over the attack in 2008. 2 football fans have been charged after crowds stormed Manchester City's stadium. Thousands of home supporters ran onto the pitch after City sealed the Premier League title against Aston Villa. One of the charged men is accused of throwing a missile. Police say they're still investigating the reported assault of Villa goalkeeper Robin Olsen, who was hit in the head. The government has advised that people at high risk of catching monkeypox should isolate for 21 days. 20 cases of the virus have been identified in the UK. The UK Health Security Agency says anyone who's had unprotected direct contact with a confirmed case shouldn't travel and should avoid pregnant women, children and the immunosuppressed. GP Dr Sarah Kayat says monkeypox is closely related to smallpox.
will be some people who are already vaccinated against smallpox from, when they were much younger. We stopped vaccinating it since we eradicated it, but we know we have that vaccine and we can give it if needed.
Boris Johnson has written an open letter to Ukrainian children describing them as strong and dignified. The Prime Minister says they've seen or experienced things no child should have to witness, and they've held their heads high in the toughest of times. He says he believes Ukraine will win the war and that children should be proud of their families, country and soldiers. It's about a third of ScotRail's train services that aren't running this morning. A reduced timetable's been put in place, with some drivers refusing to work overtime until they see better pay rises. 700 fewer train services a day will stop while the deadlock continues. Ministers say, though, passengers should now have greater certainty in the new timetable. The Employment Minister says he hopes the dispute could be sorted soon. The Duke of Cambridge will appear on a new £5 coin to mark his 40th birthday. The coin features Prince William's royal cipher and the number 40. It will be released on the 21st of June, but a limited edition gold coin will be made available beforehand. This is GB News and you're up to date. I'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's head back to Patrick and to the point.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, on your TV, radio and online. I'm with you all the way through until midday. And there's no time to come up for air here, people. We've got a massively jam-packed hours. Here's what's coming up. Former Conservative MP Imran Ahmed Khan is due to be sentenced today after he was convicted of sexual assault. Our political correspondent Tom Harwood brings you the details on that. And will introducing a windfall tax on big energy companies help ease the cost of living crisis? Or, frankly, will it betray our government's conservative values? We'll be joined by a member of the Taxpayers Alliance to discuss whether more tax is the answer to rising energy bills. As well, we are also going to be talking about steak. Exactly, an issue very close to my heart, and probably as well something that you might have missed, which is, what about a lab-grown steak? So fake steak. Fake steak. There's a joke in there somewhere, but I can't quite make it now. It's not fake moose. Oh, there it is. Hold on. It's not fake moose. They did it. Well, it's not fake moose. One Newcastle-based laboratory is attempting to grow their own cuts of meat. We'll see if this will appease our vegan guest coming up a little bit later on. I've got all of that coming up and much, much more across the programme as well. GB Views at gbnews.uk. But first, we are actually talking about the very latest from Ukraine. Now, in the last few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, a 21-year-old Russian soldier has been jailed for life for murdering an unarmed Ukrainian civilian in the first war crimes trial since the war began. It comes as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has been addressing political and business leaders at the World Economic Forum in Davos this morning. Zelensky wants to further rally Western support for his country as fierce fighting rages in the east. Now, Russian forces have continued their attack on the eastern Donbass region, for example, following their capture, of course, of Mariupol. Talks of peace were thrown into doubt over the weekend as the Ukrainian government says that Kiev would not agree to a ceasefire deal with Moscow that involved giving away any territory at all. So obviously, a bit of an impasse there, isn't there? Well, Colonel Richard Kemp, former British Army commander and former chairman of the Cobra Intelligence Group, and indeed friend of this channel as well, joins us now. So it's difficult to know where to start with this, really, I suppose. Let's start with the war crimes trial. I mean, some people are saying this was a bit of a show trial. Some people are saying that maybe this guy was kind of set up to fail. But I think the fact, as far as I can see anyway, is that he murdered a civilian in cold blood. Is that right?
As far as I'm aware, yes, that's what the court has found. And there are no doubt plenty of other people to follow him, because I think we've heard in recent weeks, we've heard, horrifying stories of mass murder of civilians, allegedly anyway, by Russian troops. Of course, it's the fact that civilians are killed in war isn't necessarily a war crime. It depends exactly on the circumstances, but I'm sure there'll be more like this to follow, probably on both sides, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, just run us through, I mean, I imagine it's quite a long list, but run us through, what is a war crime then?
Well, in this case, what it involves is deliberately killing civilians unnecessarily and deliberately, or it could be, in other circumstances, it could be not taking enough care to avoid killing civilians, because You can attack, of course, in a war. You can attack an enemy objective, and if there are civilians in that objective, you have to do your best to get them out of the way if you can, which is very difficult, of course. Warn them if you can again, and then make a calculation as to whether the number of civilians that might die in a military attack, a justified military attack, is excessive to the goals of that attack. And if you judge as a military commander that you've got to take out that target, some civilians might die, or maybe many civilians might die, you could well be justified in still carrying out the attack under the laws of war.
Is there an argument to suggest that actually what Zelensky should do, the Ukrainian leader, what he should do is agree to some loss of territory to the Russians in order to stop the war and therefore a wider loss of life?
Well, that's what President Macron and various other leaders in the West say, but I don't think it's their position, or indeed mine, to agree to that. I think it's very much a question for President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people as to whether they're willing to basically give up territory to Russian aggression, or whether they want to continue to fight on, as, for example, we did in the Second World War. There was an argument to say that, and many people made the argument at the time, that we should not have fought the Germans because of the immense loss of life involved. We should have come to terms with them. Churchill decided not to do so and didn't, and eventually we won. And that may be the case here. It may be that there does have to be further loss of life in order to maintain Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. But that's something very much for President Zelensky.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. And also, I think that the way... I'm not asking you to comment on this, by the way. You're much more highbrow than this. But my personal view is I am absolutely staggered by the way that various different European nations and leaders have behaved in this particular issue. And I imagine that Emmanuel Macron would not be particularly happy with, Putin taking Calais, for example, and just leaving it at that. And it does appear to me as though Macron is in somewhat anyway in Putin's pocket, although it wouldn't take much because he's a teeny tiny little man. But anyway, moving on from that, what's the actual latest in terms of the actual fighting, the territory at play? So Mariupol has fallen, has it? Where are we at the minute? Where are we up to?
Mariupol has fallen. The Russians are now concentrating on defending and consolidating their position in Mariupol to make sure there's no chance of them losing it. And equally in the south, also to the west, the city of Kherson, which was the first city that the Russians captured, and it's a critically important one for them and for Ukraine as well, in controlling the south coast of Ukraine, the entire coast of Ukraine. So that in that area, the Kherson area, they're increasing their defences because they are concerned about potential Ukrainian counterattack to retake the city. I don't think that's very likely to happen, but it's always a possibility. And then where the real fighting, the major fighting is going on in eastern Ukraine, the Russians are hammering the Ukrainians, I'm afraid to say, and they're doing it with artillery attacks backed up by infantry and air. And we heard only today, or at least I only heard it today, that President Zelensky says that the Ukrainians are losing between 50 and 100 troops killed every single day in eastern Ukraine alone. That's a huge number. And of course, to that we must add at least 3 to 5 times as many being wounded. So maybe 100 killed, 400 wounded, seriously in many cases, inflicting huge loss on the Ukrainian army. They can't withstand that forever. Of course, they're fighting back very hard, and as we know, they deprived the Russians of seizing Kharkov, which is one of their main objectives, and the Russians withdrew from there. But I think those people who say that the Ukrainians are going to defeat the Russians and push them right out of eastern Ukraine, it'd be nice if that was to happen, but I think it's probably optimistic. We haven't seen any really major Ukrainian counterattacks which have driven the Russians back. What we've seen is the Russians failing to take their objectives and then deciding to withdraw rather than continuing to pay a price for something they may not be able to achieve.
Colonel Richard Kemp, thank you very much, as always. Former British Army commander there, former chairman of the Cobra Intelligence Group, and that was great to have his level of insight. But we're moving on from that now, OK, and we're talking about the former Conservative MP Imran Ahmed Khan, who's due to be sentenced today after being found guilty of sexually assaulting a teenage boy in 2008. Now, he was expelled from the party within hours of his conviction and later resigned from Parliament, triggering a by-election in Wakefield to be held next month. And our political correspondent, Tom Harwood, has this report for us.
I'm here because I'm standing for Parliament. For a while, Imran Ahmed Khan appeared to be the potential darling of the Conservative Party. He was a committed Brexiteer, the grandson of a miner, a father born in India. He seemed to represent a new conservatism, one at ease with modern Britain. He was Wakefield born and bred, and in 2019 finally managed to defeat that constituency's long-standing Remainer MP Mary Cray.
Great to be back. Great to start the campaign.
The seat had been Labour-controlled since 1932.
I will do it again, but I'll do anything for the constituents of Wakefield.
Morning, sir. Morning, sir. But last year, Khan was charged with a historic sexual offence, accused of groping a 15-year-old boy in 2008. The victim said he'd felt scared and vulnerable as Khan forced him to drink, watch pornography, and then attacked him. The jury decided he was guilty. Following his conviction, it took around 3 weeks for Khan to finally submit his letter of resignation. It's thought that he collected his MP salary in full for the month of April. But for many here in Westminster, the real scandal is the culture within the buildings behind me, the seemingly endless stream of sexual assault allegations, and ultimately the character of those whom we elect. Amazingly, despite his crime, Khan was supported by a fellow Tory MP, triggering a fresh row. Former committee chairman Crispin Blunt later said he'd step down at the next election.
I do think that in every walk of life you will come across people whose behaviour is not what you would expect, it's not appropriate, and it doesn't just live in Westminster, in other businesses as well. But it's what we do about it, and unfortunately we've seen a slew of complaints being made against sitting members of Parliament and no real plan as to how we're going to protect the people that are working there.
Mr. Khan has no comment.
Since Khan's conviction, a string of new claims have emerged about the conduct of other MPs.
Any word for your victim, Mr. Khan?
Yet more exasperated questions about how to fix Westminster's rotten culture. Tom Harwood, GB News.
Yes, another scandal, I suppose, isn't it? Very odd hill, I think, that, for Crispin Blunt to decide to kill his political career on, really, frankly, and a very, very strange issue for him to go nuclear on, but there we go. Anyway, right. Well, look, I'm going to delve into the terrifying world of my inbox now, gbviews at gbnews.uk. And earlier on, I was talking about the Rwanda deal, or lack of, really, in a way. Did you know that more than 7 million quid of your money, my money, your neighbour's money, your nan's money, everyone's money, taxpayers' money, is going towards stopping the Rwanda scheme? That's right, we are now literally, you and I, are funding charities that are trying to actively block people being sent to Rwanda. Tony's been in touch. They should be banned, these are charities. They should be stripped of their charitable status. That's his view. Totally sick, this is Joan, totally sick of watching illegal immigrants landing in this country. They get 4-star treatment. This is Joan's view, of course. Well, in fact, they literally do, actually. It's not Joan's view, it is the truth, actually, in some cases. The public are funding their free ride. I can sense the anger. Why are we paying? Why are we paying for these organisations to fight the Rwanda deal? Surely Priti Patel and her team must have seen this coming. That's Derek. And look, Derek, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you, really. I mean, it's absolutely farcical, isn't it? They enact a policy, or at least announce a policy. It doesn't actually get put into practice for, I mean, how far on are we now? A month? Easily a month. And we're told that maybe it's a deterrent, maybe it isn't, and it turns out that we're funding the other side of it. It's an inherently British thing that we're doing here, which is basically cutting ourselves off at the knees. But after the break, I'll explore whether we should have a windfall tax on big energy companies. We're already paying enough tax, aren't we? Goodness gracious me, I can't afford anything at the minute. Turns out I've still got enough cash to stop people going to Rwanda, but there we go. How can we basically help people to cope with this energy crisis? Should we have a windfall tax? But first, it's the weather.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. A day of bright spells and heavy showers for many, but it's going to stay cloudy and damp in the southeast for much of the day. A weather front is moving through here. It's moving up from the south and it's really just staying still for a time before eventually the more showery airflow pushes through from the west and across Northern Ireland, parts of Western Scotland, those showers already breaking out. Southwest England, Wales, Northern England and much of northeast Scotland also seeing some heavy downpours through the afternoon. Some brighter and drier spells for the Midlands, for central parts of England, but it stays cloudy, damp and fairly cool for East Anglia in the southeast. At best, 17 or 18 Celsius, I think, here. And 15 to 18 degrees elsewhere, but at least it'll feel more pleasant with some brightness in between the showers. Showers or longer spells of rain move through southern parts of the UK overnight, and some persistent rain there for northeast Scotland for the first half of the night as well. For many, again, clear spells in between the showers, and it's a cool night to come with temperatures dipping into the mid to high single figures in most spots. So for the start of Tuesday, some persistent rain close to the northeast of England, southeast Scotland. Showers from the word go across central and southern England, and really it's another day of sunshine and showers, with the heaviest downpours for the southern half of the UK, with the risk of hail and thunder in places, and temperatures getting up to 15 to 18 Celsius. Into the evening on Tuesday, the showers continue for a time. Eventually the focus for showers pushes east, drier and brighter weather for a time from the west, with clear spells developing overnight, and another cool night to come. Now Wednesday's a blustery day with a strong breeze and some outbreaks of rain in the north. Thursday and Friday, further showers to come.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
Join me, Gloria De Piero, Monday to Thursday at noon for The Briefing. We go to the parts of Parliament that you won't see elsewhere. Plus, there's exclusive interviews with MPs from all parties.
But quite often, they paper over the real truth. Why does a working class lad like you join the Tories?
That's a good question.
Don't miss it, Monday to Thursdays at noon on GB News.
A very good morning to you all. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, on GB News, live on your TV, online and radio this morning. Now, calls are growing for the UK to introduce a windfall tax to offset some of the energy costs for families. So the windfall tax would be a one-off, supposedly, tax levy, basically, on companies that have been judged by the government anyway to have made fortunes, essentially, and substantial gains off the back of something they were not responsible for. So in this case, it will be a tax targeting energy, gas and oil companies who've profited off the big rise in global energy costs. So Chief Secretary to the Treasury, which is quite hard to say actually, Simon Clarke, said a windfall tax is very much on the table as a potential solution to the rising costs of energy, despite critics who say introducing further taxes would be a betrayal of conservatism. Well, I'm very pleased to say that Danielle Boxall is the media campaign manager at the Taxpayers Alliance, another friend of the show. We've knocked it out of the park with friends of GB News here today. Well, she joins me now. There she is. Now, I need you to educate me, OK, because I will hold my hands up here. I'm not very good with numbers, and I'm not really good when it comes to the old economic side of things. In fact, I'm not really good at much, really, but is this that bad an idea? Because as far as I can see, if it stops people freezing to death in their own homes, that's surely a good thing.
Yeah, well, of course, and it's understandable that politicians of all stripes want to help people with the cost of living at the moment, and it is a real struggle for a lot of families out there. But I don't think that a windfall tax is the way to do this. I mean, Labour initially proposed this back in January, and at the time they said it would raise £1.2 billion. Now, that does sound like a lot of money, but when you spread that across all the households in the UK, that's only about £43 per household. So it's not actually going to do that much to help cut the cost of energy at the moment. I think now they're saying it's about £3 billion because of the rising price of energy and the amount that the companies have been taking. But that's still only £120 per household. So it's not really that much, given the fact that the Treasury is already given £150 for every household on bands A to D in the council tax rebate.
Yeah, I see. I'm very conflicted about this, OK, because on the one hand, I'm like, well, OK, I mean, I suppose even if it is just 48 quid or whatever you said, I suppose it's 48 quid they didn't have before. And, you know, maybe that's, I don't know, a week's shopping somewhere for someone, which in these particular times is nothing to be sniffed at. But then at the same time, I'm very uncomfortable about the idea of retrospectively taxing someone or retrospectively reaching into someone's... You did very well last year. Right, unprecedentedly so, and so we're now kind of going to reach into your bank account and take it out of you, and that seems a bit. I mean, I wouldn't like that if someone did that to me. You know what I mean? I mean, although HMRC does have an absolutely cracking go on it, but I mean, this is a problem for me, I think.
Yeah, and I think it would be very ironic if the Conservative Party would introduce such a retrospective tax, because I don't think it's a very Conservative policy. And, you know, we've seen a lot of other groups saying that, well, why can't we have a windfall tax on this company that did very well or that company that did very well? And I think we're in danger here of spreading this to other industries that did well during the pandemic, like supermarkets, for example. And, you know, we all know that that's just going to push up the cost of food for people. So that's exactly the wrong thing we want to be doing at this kind of time. And the same thing, it would happen with a windfall tax on energy companies. Investment would they wouldn't be able to invest in green energy, which is what we want going forward. If, you know, we're going to see energy prices going up, we want something that is more sustainable and renewable. So we want these companies to be investing in renewable energy. But if they're being taxed, they're not going to have as much money to invest in that. So it's going to actually hurt consumers in the long run.
Yeah, then again, just to play devil's advocate here, I suppose the flip side of it is that these are, I mean, the numbers, the scale of the numbers that these companies deal in is insane. I couldn't even literally write it down. I wouldn't have enough space on a piece of paper to deal with the kind of numbers that they're putting out now. So, you know, they can afford to pay a bit more, can't they? I mean, at the end of the day, they are profiting now off people's misery, aren't they?
But let's not forget, these companies, they aren't these sort of fat cats that we think of. Actually, a lot of pensions, a lot of insurance firms invest in in these companies. So if we actually do go forward with a tax, we're actually just going to hit pensioners and people with insurance more than we are the actual companies themselves, because they're the ones that are going to take a hit from this. So I don't think it's really going to impact people in the way that they said it is. It's going to help people. Actually, I think it's going to make it a lot worse for a lot of people out there.
Yeah, I can believe that completely. I mean, what is the answer? I'm not expecting you to solve all the world's problems here, by the way, Neil, but represent taxpayers, which is great. And you guys at the Taxpayers Alliance do a huge amount of very, very good work exposing, essentially, wasting of taxpayers' money. But what is the answer? Because someone's going to have to try and help out people at the minute, because I'm concerned that people are just literally not going to be able to pay their bills. And what happens then, you know?
Yeah, well, let's not forget that the Treasury has taken a record tax take this year. So it's not like they don't have the headroom to actually go out and do something to make a change and help people. And what we're suggesting is that the planned income tax cut that the Treasury want to do in 2024, we say bring that forward, bring that to October in the next budget, and actually help people with the cost of living at the moment. Because the biggest bill that a family will pay in the entire year is their tax bill. Those on the lowest incomes are going to pay over half of their income in tax. So why not give people a tax break now instead of in 2024 when, you know, the next election is coming up? Stop playing political games and actually help people right now with the cost of living. So that's why we're saying bring forward that income tax cut and help people.
Danielle, thank you very, very much, as ever. Danielle Boxall there, of course, is the media campaign manager at the Taxpayers Alliance, and whizzing you through a windfall tax. How do you feel about this? I'm in the inbox right now, actually, GBViews, GBnews.uk. Mixed bag, this, people, mixed bag, because a lot of you inundate me every single day with, you know, I can't afford my bills, and I don't blame you, of course. I mean, it's nuts what's going on at the minute. But also, a lot of you seem to be very against the idea of tax, right? A tax on people who've essentially made money, right, really? And I can understand that because it goes against conservative values, but it is a real strange situation, really. Hi, Patrick. Forget a windfall tax. Instead, drop the green levy for at least 2 years, level all tax to 10% indefinitely. That's from Paddy. Great name, Paddy, in Andover. Yes, we've got more of this coming in as well. I can't remember anyone saying the government should give energy companies money when they were losing billions of pounds a couple of years ago. Just cancel the ridiculous 25% green levy. There's a theme here, and that's from John. Yes, OK. Why tax them? Just make them lower the prices. And that's from Steve. I mean, that's an option, Steve, I suppose, really, isn't it? But, I mean, they're not going to. These people just... look, I've said it before, I'll say it again. They see other people's misery and they see profits. They see dollar signs in their eyes. And they have got us, you know, for want of a better phrase, by the short and curlies, haven't they? Moving on from that, cost of living. No windfall tax to just abolish the TV licence fee. Oh, there we go, Michael. Very on brand, Mike. Thank you very much. No windfall tax, just abolish the TV licence fee. Hey, but would you still pay to watch GB News? That's what I want to know. Anyway, right, after the break. Would you eat lab-grown meat? And is it the future of sustainable farming? I'll be making up my mind on this after this morning's news. Stay tuned.
A very good morning to you. It's 11:31. I'm Rosie Wright, here to keep you up to date on GB News. A health worker's been arrested on suspicion of poisoning a child who died at Birmingham Children's Hospital on Thursday. The 27-year-old since been released pending further inquiries and has been suspended by the hospital. West Midlands Police say the child's family is being supported by specially trained officers. The Prime Minister is facing calls to explain why he held a meeting with Sue Gray ahead of her report into lockdown parties at Downing Street and Whitehall. It's around 30 people, including Boris Johnson, that have been contacted by the Cabinet Office to warn them of the contents of the document, which also reportedly includes photographs. A Ukrainian court has sentenced a 21-year-old Russian soldier to life for killing an unarmed civilian. It's the first war crimes trial since the Russian invasion began. The UN Refugee Agency says 6.5 million people have now fled the country. 2 football fans have been charged after crowds stormed the pitch at Manchester City's Premier League game against Aston Villa yesterday. The Villa goalkeeper, Robin Olsen, was hit in the head after his team's defeat at the stadium. Scotland has confirmed its first case of monkeypox. That brings the total number of cases in the UK confirmed to now 21. The government is advising people who are at high risk of catching the disease to isolate for 21 days. The UK Health Security Agency says anyone who's had direct exposure with a confirmed case shouldn't travel and should avoid pregnant women, children and the immunosuppressed. You're up to date on GB News. We're on your TV, online and DAB+ radio.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.257 to the dollar. The pound is 1.78 to the euro. And the price of gold currently stands at £1,000, £482 and 70 pence per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for physical investment.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle, and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christie's on GB News, live on your TV, online and radio this morning. Now, as all of you know, if you don't know this, right, you must have been living on the moon with your fingers in your ears, because I am fundraising for Mind, a mental health charity, and justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. We've got this again now, so it's justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. We're up above 15 grand, people, you lovely, lovely lot. Thank you very, very much. But I'm not the only one fundraising, of course. In fact, I'm actually doing almost no work for this whatsoever. What I'm doing to raise a bit of money here is lose 1.5 stone, already a stone lighter, thank you very much, it shows, and then dancing on stage with male strippers, therefore desecrating my career and ruining my chance of ever being employed anywhere again. But Nathan Dunn has announced on his Facebook page that he is more than 3 weeks and 500 miles into his record-breaking barefoot walk from the top to the bottom of the UK. He's got 800 miles or so to go, so he's walking barefoot, right, seriously, barefoot from John O'Groats to Land's End, and he's also raising money for Minds. We're kind of doing it together, really, but he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, let's be honest with you. He's nearly raised about 20k when you add his and Minds together, which is a great effort. Our target, by the way, is 50k. So come on, people, we've got about, what, four or five weeks, right, until we rattle this off. And I reckon you, the lovely people of the UK, can raise 50 grand between you. I know we're talking about a cost of living crisis, don't get me wrong, and I know that money's tight at the minute, but if you can give us a couple of quid, justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's. Now, Nathan, I'm very pleased to say, joins me now, I believe. Yes, Nathan, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very well. Now, how are you? Where are you, actually? Where are you at the minute?
I'm just basically like below, slightly to the left of the Peak District. So another 2 days and I'll be walking in through Cheshire and then towards my hometown, which I'm looking forward to.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. How are the feet?
Yeah, they're okay. I've been struggling a bit, but you've got to take it slowly and keep going. Don't stop no matter what.
Look, absolutely, and that's really kind of the metaphor for what you're doing, really, isn't it? Well, especially when it comes to the mental health side of things. Now, just talk to us really about the journey that you've had so far. So you're walking on your own, really, and you're camping out some nights. Just talk us through your journey so far.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much on my own. I've had a couple of friends come and see me here and there, but mainly I'm camping. So I walk all day, and then basically wherever I get to, I just find a place to camp, get me tent up, have some food, go to sleep, and then get up in the morning and do it again. Walk for about 10 hours a day to 12 hours a day.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, again, you know, I know I've asked you this question loads of times, mate, but, you know, we have got some new viewers, new listeners, etc., so it's worth them noting. You're doing this for Mind, obviously, and why is that? I mean, you are very open, I think miraculously so, really, about the fact that you have struggled, as indeed, look, every single day 12 men take their own lives, and apparently suicide in the UK is the single biggest killer of men under the age of 45. And for our viewers or listeners who are not aware, why are you doing this, mate?
Yeah, I wanted to try and raise more awareness. I believe there's a massive gap between getting help through the NHS and what a charity can do for you. I was in the position where I was standing on a bridge one night and I didn't want to be here anymore. I flipped a coin, you know, to decide whether I should be here anymore, and thankfully it landed the right way and I got down. But when I tried to get help over the next couple of days with the NHS, I was told it'd be a 15-week waiting list, and you know, I actually went private and spoke to a counsellor privately, which I paid for myself. I was very, very lucky to be able to do that, but I wasn't aware of the charities out there, and you know, these mental health charities can be there within one day to help you. So with there being a gap between one day for a charity and 15 weeks for the NHS, I want to try and change that. I want to, you know, even if we can change it by a week or half, you know, that's what my aim is, to raise awareness for that problem.
No, absolutely. Now, I don't want to overcomplicate it, so I'm going to give the link to the Just Giving account that we've got. But we've synced accounts, haven't we, really, Nathan? So it's kind of all is going to you, etc., etc. But it's justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christie's is our one. Nathan's got his own, but they are, like I said, synced. So, but Nathan, when you've been on your own, okay, and you've been walking, spending a lot of time, by definition of what you're doing now, spending a lot of time on your own, how has that been for you? Because I imagine that before used to be a big problem for you, right?
Yeah, previous to this, I'd be very afraid to be on my own and left with my own thoughts, because, you know, my mind was very, it was very not a nice place to be in. So I tried to hide from it. And I suppose one of the benefits of doing this challenge is that there's no hiding out here. You know, when you're on your own in the middle of nowhere with no one to help you, and the only thing you can do is keep going forwards, you find what you're really made of. And there are days where I've been in my tent crying my eyes out, I know, and I've wanted to quit. There are days where I've been laughing and singing, walking along, and I suppose that's just what life is like at home. Usually it's, you know, you have good days, you have bad days, but you can't just stop. You've got to keep going. And yeah, it's quite symbolic to what I'm doing, I think.
Absolutely, it is. And I think that, by definition, anyone who walks barefoot from John O'Groats to Land's End, which, by the way, you're setting a world record in the process of doing, is an absolute legend, no matter what you're doing it for. But I think why you're a double legend, really, Nathan, is that you're doing it for such a good cause. And mental health affects everyone, obviously. I'll hold my hands up to it. I know you and I have spoken privately, Nathan, but, you know, I've really struggled at times, really struggled, actually. And I think sometimes from the outside, it can seem like someone's life is going really well and that, you know, you're a happy, jolly kind of chap. But actually, it's a bit like a swan, isn't it? You know, you kind of maybe seem graceful on the surface, but what's going on underneath is, frankly, chaos, right? And, you know, I've had my issues with this, but I think the fact is that you are now actively saving lives. You're turning your struggles, you're going through a struggle now, to save people's lives, and I think you are an absolute out-and-out hero. Mental health doesn't just affect, you know, kids and women, etc. The fact is, weirdly so, and I'm not quite sure why this is, but weirdly so, men seem to struggle disproportionately in this country with their mental health. Why do you think that is, Nathan? Do you think we don't talk to each other enough? What is it?
Yeah, I think we definitely don't talk. I think there's an inherent, you know, macho nature about guys where you can't, you know, you can't. We're taught from, I think, from birth that to be vulnerable is to be weak, and they're two different things. Weakness is not vulnerability. You can be a very strong person and still be vulnerable. And I myself never understood the difference between the two. And I always thought that being vulnerable was being weak. So you don't cry, you don't tell people that you struggle, and you just crack on with it. And you know, it's like a dam, isn't it? The water behind the dam. Eventually there's going to be cracks, and that water's going to come crashing through if you don't let some of it out.
It's such a good analogy, actually, Nathan. And look, thank you very much. I'm just going to give it again. Look, Nathan and I have kind of synced our accounts and stuff, so I'm just going to give mine just for the sake of clarity. It's justgiving.com/fundraising/Challenge Christie's. Look, Nathan has set himself a target of 50k, right? We're already at 20 of that. We've got about... Nathan, how many more weeks are it going to be until you finish, do you reckon?
I'm hoping to finish around the 30th of June, so
we've got a few weeks.
Four or 5 weeks, yeah.
We're going to nail this, people. We're going to absolutely nail this. The good British public, GB News, viewers and listeners are going to absolutely lick this, right? 50k, justgiving.com/fundraising/Challenge Christie's. Hey, come on, look, what a worthy cause and what a mighty fine man. Nathan, you're a legend. Keep going, my friend, all right? Keep going. You're a hero. And hopefully next week, we'll try and sort it, I'll be walking with you barefoot. So there we go. Nathan Dunn there, ladies and gentlemen, an absolute national hero. But we're going to move on from that now and talk about something else that's very close to my heart, actually. Steak. That's right. So steak here in the United Kingdom is a beloved pub staple, right? It's an absolute classic. It's wonderful. But as we know, raising cattle for consumption is a drain on our natural environment and indeed resources. So not to mention some animal activists and vegans, of course, consider it a bit ethically dodgy. But they're wrong. Anyway, that's why a team of British scientists are aiming to skip the farming step and raise steaks, not cattle. Well, one laboratory in Newcastle is looking to use cow cells mixed in a special formula to grow entire cuts of meat in a bioreactor, apparently, which sounds a bit like something that Putin would use as a war crime, but there we go. Newcastle Uni startup 3D Biotissues say their product may even replace the need for farms and will be identical in taste and look basically exactly like a steak. So that's what they say anyway. They say that it could be on our plates within the next 5 years. Normally when I order a steak, I'd like it now, not in 5 years' time, but there we go. So is this the future of sustainable farming in the UK? Anyway, joining me now is Claire Ogley, Head of Campaigns, Policy and indeed as well research at the Vegan Society. So Claire, obviously I was kind of joshing earlier, but viewers of this show will know I tried veganism once and I just ended up secretly eating ham on the tube on the way home. It's not for me. I mean, my concern is that if you breed fake steak in a lab, then there'll be fewer cows anyways. You're almost denying a cow the chance to live and then be slaughtered and eaten.
You could say that. I think the important thing to consider is that the current kind of agricultural process, as you said, has a huge drain on our resources and a huge kind of carbon and methane impact on the earth. So I think it's really important to consider that this meat grown in a lab could get rid of that and could mean that it's way more environmentally friendly. I think it's a really good choice for vegetarians and people who want to reduce the amount of meat they're eating.
So, OK, I see this. So now vegetarians and vegans won't have to suffer anymore. They could eat meat because it's grown in a lab. You're not killing anything.
Well, vegetarians could. I think vegans would say that it still uses animals, so as part of the stem cells that they use, and the growth medium is also made from animals. So vegans probably wouldn't be very happy to eat it. But I think that anyone else who's trying to reduce it's a really good option, because obviously it does reduce animal suffering. There's over 1 billion animals are killed for food in the year every year in the UK. So that would save a lot of lives, right? And also, it's important to consider that on top of it as well.
They do taste very, very nice, though, don't they?
Well, I wouldn't know, but I do know there are a lot of delicious...
You've never eaten meat?
A long time ago, but I do eat vegan alternatives almost every day, and I can say that they are probably just as good. I would challenge everyone to try a Beyond Meat burger and tell me that it's not as good as
to be honest with you, and look, no, seriously, all joking aside, I know I'm taking the mick a bit here, but all joking aside, I actually have eaten and do believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, occasionally do eat the vegan products, and I must say, actually, I do like them. Actually, I think they're great. I mean, yes, I do. One thing I've never been able to get my head around, right, is why some of them, okay, so some of the ones are like, excuse me, in fact, some fake steaks, not like the one we're talking about now, just the overtly fake ones. You cut them open, and it's almost like fake blood comes out of it. It's like, why are you trying to replicate meat to that extent? Just eat meat.
Well, I think that there are a lot of people who do still want to eat meat, and I think things like the Beyond Meat burger do give people that the same feeling that they want and the same taste, and it does offer people that choice. I myself had some Linda McCartney sausages for breakfast this morning. It's just people do want something that's familiar to them, I think, sometimes, and that can help them on that transition potentially to veganism, I would hope.
I think that's a really good point, actually, because that basically is the exact answer for it, isn't it? If people are transitioning, as it were, into veganism, you do want that kind of familiarity. You kind of want something that does taste a bit like bacon, or does taste a bit like a sausage, or a bit like whatever the meat equivalent is. So I can completely understand that. Do you think that veganism is going to be the kind of majority dietary choice within the next kind of 30 or 40 years? It does seem like loads of people are going that way.
I believe so, yes. I think it's inarguably kind of better for the planet, better for animals, and I would say better for people's health as well. So I think that we'll see increasing numbers of people take it up. We've already seen massive amounts of growth of veganism. 600,000 people, I think, signed up for the January this year. So you are seeing a huge trend in that direction, and I'm hoping it will continue.
I actually was vegan for about a month or so. Look, I sacked it right off, but for about a month. But I've got to be honest with you, I did find it more of an effort in the evening. So at the time, I was working shifts that got me back indoors at about 9 p.m, OK? And by which time I was knackered, right? I was absolutely knackered. And there is more of an effort, I found anyway, in preparing a completely vegan meal. It required a bit of pre-planning, which I'm notoriously terrible at. And I just wonder how convenient veganism is for the very busy person.
I think I recognise that issue. I think it is an issue for a lot of people who are starting that journey. And I know that so at the Vegan Society, we've trademarked over 60,000 products. So it's a huge amount of products to date, which give people that alternative. I think it does sometimes require a bit of planning and a bit of preparation. And it's something we're sort of working on at the moment to give people resources to help them plan kind of quick, easy meals, which you can find on our website.
Yeah. Is it? Can I ask you this? Because this is a thing that comes up all the time with veganism, right? Is it okay to raise a child as being completely vegan? Do they miss out on certain things they need for their physical development?
No. So it is a well-planned, kind of prepared vegan diet is suitable for children over the age of 2. So it is something that that parents can consider. Yeah.
OK, great stuff. Claire, look, I've enjoyed this. Thank you very much. Claire Ogley there, of course, Head of Campaigns, Policy and Research at the Vegan Society. Look, let's be honest, I'm not going to go vegan anytime soon, but you have to respect anyone who indeed does want to. Now, let's take you through some of the headlines of the day that you may have missed to round off the show. So, showing signs of stress makes you hotter. More attractive, apparently, not sweaty. Anyway, new research from the Evolution of Human Behaviour journal says the more stressed out you seem in front of others, the more people find you vulnerable, honest and likeable as a friend. Or indeed more than a friend. I mean, that's not the way I work in the last 5 minutes in the run-up to this show when I'm shouting at the staff and threatening everyone with a sack. I can tell you what, no one finds me attractive then. But researchers found when studying people preparing for the fake task of a new job interview, candidates who rubbed their hands, which I do all the time actually, paced, goodness me, this is me, paced or fidgeted, This is me. Anyway, we're looked upon more sympathetically by others. So apparently now I'm the hottest man alive. I know, saying something we all knew. But anyway, encouraging support and social bonding, apparently. So whereas those who kept their stress inside seemed cold and apathetic. So I can kind of see that. I suppose it humanises you a bit, doesn't it, when you show a bit of emotion, I suppose. Anyway, but moving on from that, Kourtney Kardashian has just wed her first... I like the way we've gone first husband, because it implies there'll definitely be a second and third, doesn't it? But anyway, there we go. Her first husband. The eldest Kardashian sister wed punk band Blink-182's drummer Travis Barker for the third time in Ponteforno, Italy, over the weekend. So last week they wed in a Californian courthouse, and in April they were married by an Elvis impersonator, obviously, after they say they got a bit too wasted at the Grammy Awards, and now they've married again. This is like the idea of people renewing their vows, isn't it? I've never really... Yeah, because it's... Does anyone else have this, right? So I'm at the age now where quite a lot of my mates have started getting married, right? And so that's fine, obviously, you do you, but... Half of them end in divorce, that's all I'm saying. But you do you. And then you end up in a situation where they go, can you come to my stag do, mate? You go, yeah, all right, yeah, I'll go to a stag do. Where is it? Oh, it's in Prague. Right, so I've got to pay to go to Prague. Right, where are you getting married? Are you getting married in the Maldives, are you? So, well, no, do one. I'm sorry, I'm not made of money, and also that's my entire holiday. If you want to get married in the Maldives, get married on your own, as far as I'm concerned, OK? Got my own thing going on. Anyway, moving on from that. Speaking of punk rockers, while most of us will be raising a glass to the Queen next weekend for her Platinum Jubilee, 3 pubs in Bristol will be holding a 3-day counter-cultural festival. The Punk Festival, with a name we can't mention at this time in the morning, will feature such bands as Mutilated State, Disorder... Can we say this? Disorder, Money and Cocaine... It's my Tinder profile. No, it's not. Drunken Marksman and the quite appropriately named Hierarchy. It's not, just to clarify, sorry about that. And the quite appropriately named Hierarchy will perform in Euston from Thursday to Sunday. So that's that. That's something for you to all dwell on there. Anyway, let's go into the inbox and finish the show with a bit of you, OK? GBViews, gbnews.uk. Vegan is the title of this email, and it's come straight through from Christopher. He just says, give me a Big Mac any day. And I'm with you, Christopher. Thank you very much. Right, Ray's been in touch. Great show. Thank you very much, Ray. If we were not supposed to eat meat, then why is it so tasty? And with logic like that, Ray, it's hard to argue with you or anything that you have to say. I'm inclined to agree with you, right? If cows weren't meant to be eaten, they'd taste awful, but they don't. They taste flipping lovely. Anyway, right, so Terry basically says that being vegan is more expensive, he finds it anyway, more expensive than eating meat. And look, if you're on a budget, you know, then fair enough, that's the way it is. But look, hey, that's it from us here at To The Point. Thank you very much, everyone who's been tuning in and getting in touch as well. But don't you dare go away, because up next is the wonderful Gloria De Piero with The Briefing. Stay tuned, people.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. A day of bright spells and heavy showers for many, but it's going to stay cloudy and damp in the southeast for much of the day. A weather front is moving through here. It's moving up from the south, and it's really just staying still for a time before eventually the more showery airflow pushes through from the west and across Northern Ireland, parts of Western Scotland, those showers already breaking out. Southwest England, Wales, Northern England, and much of northeast Scotland also seeing some heavy downpours through the afternoon. Some brighter and drier spells for the Midlands, for central parts of England, but it stays cloudy, damp, and fairly cool for East Anglia in the southeast. At best, 17 or 18 Celsius, I think, here, and 15 to 18 degrees elsewhere, but at least it'll feel more pleasant with some brightness in between the showers. Showers or longer spells of rain move through southern parts of